Blessings, everyone. Thank you for joining me. It's an honor today to talk with somebody who I consider an old friend, Austin Ruse. Thank you for joining me.
Delighted to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Since a lot of my listeners are non-Christian, or sometimes I just have visitors that are looking at other videos or something. Could you introduce yourself? They might not know who you are.
Yep. I'm Austin Ruse. I am president of a UN accredited non-governmental organization called CFAM, the Center for Family and Human Rights. And for the last 28 years, we have been intimately involved in UN negotiations, specifically related to life and family issues. I'm also a writer, published, thousands of, well, maybe not thousands, but at least 1,000 columns, essays, articles, and I've published 4 books, and working on a fifth as we speak, and it's killing me.
What's that going to be about?
It's going to be called Not Just for Kings, Founding Families for the Ages. And it's going to look at the lessons that noble houses can teach regular people about protecting their name, their family name, and projecting it through the ages.
Wow.
And I believe that all of us can do that. And so the book is going to tell the story of various noble houses, like or aristocratic houses like the Habsburgs, but also families that other people don't necessarily know about.
Wow.
The Seymours in Great Britain, one of the oldest families in England, the Howard family in England, and there's a chapter on the Kennedys. They have created a dynasty that carries on whether you love them or hate them. And that there's a way to do this, and it's not just money and power and social position. But then I'm going to write about families that I know in this area of Northern Virginia and
Um,
how they have been able to project their families.
yeah.
It has a lot to do with community. There's a chapter I call Family, Clan, Tribe, Nation. And Anyway, it's a tough subject. And like most of my writing, most of my books, I've been able to polish off in like 6 months. I've been at this for more than a year, and it's
Wow.
tough. It's tough.
Wow.
The ideas are really beyond me, but I will see how it goes.
It sounds cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen with you.
Oh
Austin,
yeah,
Austin, can you see that?
I can. I
Okay.
remember that.
Well, this started it all. This was kind of this was, I think, on Facebook. I thought it was on Twitter, but it wasn't. I think it was on Facebook. I had to look back
Well,
and
his post, Spencer Klavan's post, is
on
clearly
Face
on
Twitter.
Twitter.
Okay.
And I don't know how I responded. I might have done a screenshot and put it up on Facebook.
That's
But
it.
yeah, this is when Spencer Klavan announced, I guess, his engagement or something to a man. Spencer Klavan is a talented young man. He's the managing editor of the Claremont Review of Books. He is the son of Andrew Klavan, who quite famously is a convert to Christianity from Judaism. And Spencer Klavan wrote a book about how to save the West.
Oh,
And
my God.
one of my recurring themes with these kinds of guys, Spencer Klavan being one of them, Douglas Murray being the other, is how can we, well, two things. How can we how can a sexual revolutionary save the West if they have a fundamental misunderstanding of human sexuality? And secondly, what in the world is the mainstream conservative movement doing accepting these types of relationships and celebrating them, as Michael Knowles has done here?
That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah,
So this
yeah,
was, I had to look up the date because I had screenshotted this like 4 hours. It says 4 hours after you posted it. I like collect this stuff like Fabergé
yeah.
eggs. So this was November 5th, 2022 was the original
Uh-huh.
date of that. I had to look it up. So the theme that I wanted to address with you, I kind of talked about it with a couple other people, but you're very politically involved. So I thought you'd be a good person I could delve a little deeper with, because it seems like there is a movement within conservatism, specifically the Republican Party under Trump, to be very accepting of homosexuality, not accepting, of course, of transgenderism. So not of the full alphabet, but at least of the LGB part of it.
Yeah,
So here we got Trump. I've got a
yeah,
lot of slides here. So I think
yeah,
this is from his first campaign.
yeah. That was from 16. Yeah,
Yeah. Here is Tiffany Trump. She did a 2020 Pride event. This was an official event. She wasn't just doing it on her own. So um, this was from his last campaign, Richard Grinnell, who anyway, Melania Trump raised four times more for gay conservatives than the gay Democrats did. The gay left has lost the influence. Gays don't like inflation, open borders, and wars. So this was an
yeah.
event that Melania Trump hosted, spoke at Mar-a-Lago for the Log Cabin Republicans, who are a gay Republican group.
And I have known Richard Grinnell for 20
Really?
years.
Really?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. He
Okay.
was the spokesman for consecutive U.S. ambassadors to the UN. And therefore, because of our work, we ran across Grinnell consistently over the years. And he was always very helpful to the pro-life and pro-family NGOs at the UN. And when he was announced as the foreign policy advisor to the Mitt Romney campaign now years ago, it came under attack by our friends at Family Research Council, and we actually defended him. Something that I've come to regret, because in Trump 1.0, he began this global campaign to force governments to change their laws on sodomy.
I want to talk about
Um,
that too.
and yeah, I'd be happy to. And one of the things that he did was he threatened these various countries, with losing the ability to share intelligence information if they didn't change their laws on sodomy. Now, his defenders these days say, "Oh no, he was just he was just going after the countries that have homosexuality, sodomy as the death penalty," and that's not the case. As the recent tweet of Charlie Kirk points out, is that it's all countries that have any kind of regulation on human sexuality, specifically related to sodomy.
Yeah. I want to remind people what kind of voting bloc we're looking at. So there's a lot of crazy numbers out there, but about 5% of the population is LGBT. 15% of those tend to vote Republican. So we're looking at less than 1% of the voting bloc, and this is who the Republicans are going after. It's insane. So
Yeah,
I kind of wanted to make an argument too. I don't want to talk about religion with you, be
yeah.
specifically, although I'd love to. But it seems like it seems like a lot of politics seem to be downstream of religion a lot of times, and as certain people in the political world have gone sort of soft on the gay stuff, we see that in religion as well. It's not just
Yeah,
on one front. This, and I want to talk about this real quick.
yeah.
This was from 20, let me get the right date here. I got in trouble for this. This was an interview between Dave Rubin, who's a gay, I guess you call him conservative podcaster, and Bishop Robert Barron, who's a
Yeah.
Catholic prelate. This is from 2017. I got in big trouble. I was still
Yeah.
Catholic back
I
then.
remember this. I watched this.
Yeah. So I don't
And
know.
Barron, on the gay marriage question, Barron said that
He
he says, "I'm
fumbled.
not." As I recall, he said something like, "I'm not going to get in my tank
I have
and
it.
go rolling down the road on this particular issue."
I have
And
the
I'm
quote.
thinking, okay, don't get in your tank, but tell the truth about the teachings of the church.
I have the
So
quote. So yeah, you're correct. So I don't know where the Catholic journalists were that day. They were taking a nap, but nobody really reported on this interview until I did. And then
Yeah.
Barron's people came after me pretty seriously. It was not good.
Did
And
they
yeah, here
really? You know, I wrote a
they
column for
did.
this.
They did.
I wrote a column for the Stream. Barron wrote a book, letter to a young, I forget whether it was overtly about homosexuality or, but anyway, he was very, very soft on the issue. And he's a very powerful man. He's got a big media empire. I'm just basically nobody compared to somebody like Barron. But I did write a column criticizing him
Good.
on, gosh, wish I remember the book that he wrote on a related topic. But anyway, yeah, I criticized him for self-peddling the homosexual predators in the church.
Good.
I think that was the
That might have
issue.
been Letter to a Suffering Church.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that stunk.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
bad. He said, yeah, no. Well, there's these big topics in people's lives, especially young people sometimes, and one of them's like identity and sexuality and those things.
Yeah,
So, I mean, politics and the church need people that are decisive and can speak, credibly on these things. And if you can't do that, go somewhere else. Find a job, somewhere else. Do something else. Work on Broadway. Don't do something that's going to destroy people's lives. So Dave Rubin is like, and I can't fault him. He's like an honest guy, and he had Bishop Barron on the show, and he asked him a question about same-sex marriage. And Barron's response was, "Yeah, no, I do, but I don't think I want to press it much further. I think where we are right now in the States, I'll apply the Aquinas principle. I think it would probably cause much more problem and dissension and difficulty if we kept pressing it." And this is the quote that you mentioned. I wanted to ask your response to it as a pro-lifer because Ruben asked him about, well, what are your personal feelings about Obergefell? And he said, yeah, that's probably right. The way you just put it there is probably right. I wouldn't want to fully just say, that's great, off you go. At the same time, I wouldn't want to get on a crusader's tank and try to reverse it. Well, what happens if all the pro-lifers didn't want to try to reverse Roe? What would have happened?
right, right. It's funny because after Roe was decided in 1973, there was this same attitude about the life issues, like it's never ever going to change and we have to adapt to it. And some hardy pro-lifers said, no, 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 we can change this. So a couple of things on this is, yeah, I think it's very defeatist. I think that there probably is some interest around the country, maybe in some of the states. I'd heard that there was something in Utah or Idaho of some legislator putting forth a bill to come back to a proper understanding of marriage, to test the courts. Friends of mine who are legal eagles have said, that there really is no interest at this time in trying to overturn that. But it doesn't mean that we can't continue talking about it. Now, the good news is that Dave Rubin spoke on a panel at the National Conservatism Conference in Miami a couple of years ago, and he came under great criticism from the audience because of the positions that he was taking, as did Douglas Murray. And it got so bad for these guys that I don't think that they were invited back the next time. I wrote a column about this. Ben Dominic was quite upset that what was said at that particular conference, and the people sitting in the hall at something called the National Conservative Conference were very vociferous in their opposition to the homosexual ideology, and Dominic was offended. I wrote a column about that. So, and it's not just trends that they are unhappy about. But they cheered vigorously when there was criticism of the homosexual movement itself.
Yeah.
So I do think that there are people out there who are ready, willing, and able to talk about this. It is now almost like contraception, a third rail, that you can't criticize our homosexual brothers and sisters. But I do, and I think we should. So on the one hand, you've got Bishop Barron sort of soft pedaling it. On the other hand, Dave Rubin came under criticism at the National Conservatism Conference by the people in the audience.
Mm. When I wanted to give a quote just on because I think it relates to Obergefell really well. And I can't remember when he gave it. This is Cardinal Francis George. And
Yeah.
I have some issues with him, but this is where he was really right on it. And he said this proposed legislation will have long-term consequences because laws teach. They tell us what is socially acceptable and what is not, and most people conform to the dictates of their respective society. And I think since 2015, when Obergefell passed, that's what we've seen, is that people have largely gotten in line. I think the Republican Party has done that too. So,
There was a guy that I used to know quite well named Michael Ullman, who actually wrote the Mexico City policy when he was working on the Hill. He wrote a couple of books. He's now passed, but he said every country has their own sexual constitution. And in most of them, there is a non-acceptance of these types of non-traditional relationships. Has ours changed because of Obergefell? I mean, you say that because polls have changed.
yeah.
It shows a general acceptance, and maybe that's the case. I don't know. I don't know. But I think it's incumbent upon guys like you and me to keep talking about it. And also in the particular way that we do about, not that it's, I thought that the argument, every child deserves a mom and a dad was kind of weak. I think and I am told by people who are actively on the ground that the arguments that worked best in the 34 states that man-woman marriage won and gay marriage lost, the number one driver was explaining the immorality of homosexual relationships,
Right.
and how dangerous they can be. I am told that really was the number one argument. It seemed to a lot of people that it was, everybody deserves a mom and a dad, which ultimately is kind of a weak argument
I
because,
agree.
a lot of people don't have a mom and a dad, and and
True.
and we know that.
True. Two dads. So I just wanted to put up a couple of things from where they were psyoping people. This is all around Obergefell. So be
Yeah,
yourself together. This
yeah,
was kind of a Rorschach test, I think. Is that how you pronounce it? Rorschach?
yeah. It is Rorschach. Yeah,
Rorschach test. So this is Dave Rubin posting about in 2022. So right around
yeah,
when you posted that thing, here's Megyn Kelly. What? This is amazing news. So happy
yeah,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah,
She's a real fake conservative. So Dave Rubin, his husband, had two test tube babies. So
yeah.
here's another.
And maybe that was what he came under such vociferous attack for at the National Conservatism Conference, because I think it was roughly at that time, this particular thing. But I actually don't remember. You may remember, you may have missed it. Guy Benson of Fox News announced his this is now maybe 5 years ago, announced his engagement to another man, and on Twitter, and the praise and the congratulations from all of these mainstream conservatives was amazing. Was amazing. And I personally don't think that you can be considered a conservative if you are accepting of an improper understanding of human sexuality.
Yeah.
I
Here's
think it's a
yeah.
cornerstone issue.
Yeah.
It's
Christopher.
not just about taxes and borders and guns.
Exactly. Christopher Rufo, congratulations and RIP
Yeah,
to sleeping for the next few years.
yeah,
Yeah, whatever.
yeah,
Libs of TikTok,
yeah,
congrats. Yeah,
yeah,
whatever. These people have huge followings on Twitter.
yeah.
And
That's right.
here
That's
of
right.
course is the man himself, Trump.
Yeah.
Uh, Jason Whitlock, this was weird. The disease of thinking everything is for everybody is destroying civilization. Size 32 genes are not for me. I have to accept let's learn to accept the things that are not for us. Oh, brother.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Moving on. But yeah, second only to that Barron interview with Rubin is the one that he did with, actually, I think the one with Peterson was worse. Um, they did a whole podcast on same-sex parenting, and Peterson tried to argue from the point of a traditional marriage, and Rubin was arguing from the point of a same-sex marriage. And by the end of the conversation, Peterson said, "Yeah, you're correct that this is cool."
Oh,
And
I missed that. I'll have to dial
oh,
that
you
up.
got the worst part was like uh, Peterson was like, "Well, studies have been shown that children do better if they're breastfeeding from their mothers and da 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 da." And David Rubin goes, "Well, me and my partner have these freezers full of breast milk, so we have breast milk." And then uh, Peterson goes, "Well, females have these more nurturing aspects to their personality, and children need that." And Rubin goes, "Well, my partner has these more feminine sort of attributes." And it was really bad, and you could just see
Yeah.
Peterson just fold like a house of cards, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that was very sad. Representative Nancy Mace, I really don't like her. We support gay marriage.
Yeah.
She's one of these big anti-trans people. She's always
Yeah.
making headlines for her anti-trans stuff.
Yeah.
But so she's one of these LGB without the T people.
Yeah. 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 I wrote a column a decade ago asking when are the LGBs going to dump the Ts because it's going to turn out to be fairly embarrassing. And what I have come to understand is that the T is inexorably linked to the LGB.
Of
And you and I have
course.
talked about this on social media and elsewhere. It's they are not one and the same thing, but one certainly comes from the other. You just it's there's this television program about Julia Child. I don't know if you've seen this. It's really quite well done about her life and how she became Julia Child and all that kind of stuff. And in one episode, she's out in San Francisco with I forget his name, a major chef, cookbook writer, lived in California, lived in San Francisco, and he took her out one night to a gay bar, and it was a female impersonator night, and it's
Mhm.
like this was a long time ago. And these people now want to say, oh, that has nothing to do with us,
Of
when in
course.
fact it's part and parcel of that community. Would you agree with me?
Of course. I've always said
Yeah.
that transgenderism is like an extreme form of homosexuality because like if you want to talk about like the drag culture, you know, gay men will tuck in order to pass as a
Hmm.
woman. So the extreme form of that would be castration. And then
Hmm.
like lesbians, sometime like butch lesbians would have the practice of binding. So
Hmm.
the extreme form of that would be a mastectomy. So
Yeah.
it's on the same continuum. It's
Yeah.
just
That's
taken
right.
to the
That's right.
extreme. But I
Well,
think
who's the guy? Who's
what?
Zucker? Dr. Zucker from Canada,
I have no idea.
who he had a taxonomy of trans, and he said there are basically two types: the autogynes who gain sexual pleasure from other people thinking that they're a woman, so it's a fetish, and then there are straight men who want to attract gay men who want to attract straight men,
Yeah,
and those are basically the two types.
sounds right. I think too, I was curious what you thought. I think that the trans stuff has been kind of like a boom for the gays because especially the more like conservative gays, like the log cabin
Yeah,
Republican types, is they can go, oh, look at how
that's
weird
not
these
us.
people are.
Yeah,
Look at us.
yeah,
Oh, we have a suit and a tie. We
yeah,
want a house in the suburbs. We want two
yeah.
kids and a dog and a cat. Oh, we're like normal. So it's been kind of like a boom for them.
Yeah, the great myth of the gay white picket fence, and Sarah Longwell at the Bulwark, and Tim Miller at the Bulwark, and aren't we all so terribly normal? And you know the truth of that whole world. Um, yeah, for guys like Andrew Sullivan, they get to point fingers at the T. But the good news on that, and I've written that we can never let the LGBs divorce from the Ts. We can never let that happen, and it simply can't happen. But the good news is that the big gay organizations, the Human Rights Campaign, and I think GLAAD, are refusing to allow the Ts to be thrown under the bus, and they have a lot of power.
I'm glad. Let's see. So here's Nancy Mace again about Pride. The pandemic kept
Yeah,
all of us from fully celebrating Pride here in her district. This is Grinnell
God, there's Rick Grenell.
in the pool.
Yeah, yeah,
Here's Rick Grinnell again.
yeah.
Berlin 2018 marks Ambassador Richard Grinnell's 25th Pride and Embassy. Well, I don't know what he was doing there. He was marching, I guess.
Hmm.
So, whoops. This is what you were talking about. I think the argument among Trump's defenders is that, well, Trump hires gays, but he hires the non-ideological gays who don't push the agenda. Well, here we go.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh yeah. I mean, it really interesting. As soon as he was able, he did this thing that this effort to decriminalize sodomy. And like I said, it's not just in countries that quite, I think, wrongly put homosexuals to death, which is 4 or 5 countries, but in any that have any kind of sexual regulation at all. So yeah, he's yes, the first chance he got, that's what he did.
Yeah, this article was from
And the flip
February.
side of this is that in the halls of conservatism, guys like him are more welcome than guys like me. So, and I wrote a column about this, about how, believing Christian conservatives are now out, and these white picket fence gays are completely in.
This article was from February 2019. Do you know does he have a role in this Trump administration official role yet?
He does. He was named State Department liaison to something or other. Uh, it's kind of surprising to me that he didn't get more. It kind of surprised me that he wasn't up for Secretary of State, although he
Oh,
was shortlisted for it. But somebody told me at an event, at a dinner now about 6 weeks ago, that for some reason Grinnell refused to go down to Mar-a-Lago and kiss the ring, which
hmm.
might have resulted in a greater position than what he has ended up as, which is, I have to remember, liaison to, anyway, he's liaison on some issue,
Okay.
which is not really what I thought he was going to get.
Okay. Here's
Yeah.
Grinnell I can't remember this guy's name. I think his name is Scott.
Scott Pressler.
Yeah. So he's a big deal in Republican something. And
Well,
he's and he's gay, I
he's
should say.
yeah. He's been registering a lot of people to vote, and a lot of people credit him with turning Pennsylvania because of his
Oh,
vote.
I think the Amish had something to do with that.
Yeah.
Here's Pressler again. Hillary, I'm a gay man voting for real Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right, right. More gay stuff. Oh, this is one of the people I really don't like is Charlie Kirk. Developing Scott Pressler has received a standing ovation at AmFest. It is so good
Yeah,
to see him get the recognition he deserves. Amfest is like
yeah,
fake conservatism, neocon hellhole. But they all
yeah,
go there. I mean, they're all there.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Charlie Kirk, and that's him. This is the guy. To all the Equity March participants, Donald Trump is the first incoming president to ever support gay marriage. Celebrate and thank him. Oh, Lord. This is your daily reminder that President Trump and
Yeah.
Ambassador Richard Grenell have launched a worldwide effort to decriminalize homosexuality in 70 plus countries where it's still illegal. Oh, Lord. It's not our business if countries want to have homosexuality being illegal.
The it's very interesting on this particular topic. My organization ended up on the Southern Poverty Law Center hate list precisely on this issue. We were asked by people in Belize, and I think the government in Belize, if there was a treaty obligation with regard to sodomy, because they were under pressure from some international group of jurists and lawyers that there is a treaty obligation to change laws on sodomy. And there isn't. And we told them that there isn't. And because we told them that there isn't, that was when we landed, along with ADF, on the Southern Poverty Law Center hate list. Just
Haven't they?
answering a question of international law.
Oh, Lord. Haven't they tried this with abortion with countries that have abortion illegal?
They do, and that's one of the things that we've been working on now, gosh, for 28 years is to claim that there's an international right to abortion, and there's not.
Oh my.
So, I mean, abortion doesn't even appear in any international treaty. So that's the heart of our work on these two issues to ensure that sexual orientation and gender identity, what we call SOGI, does not end up in international law,
Oh.
and that neither does abortion. And on those two questions, we've been quite successful. We even assisted in the negotiations of a good definition of gender in international law. Not a lot of people know this, but in the Rome statutes creating the International Criminal Court, the definition of gender is men and women in the context of society. They're trying to get that. They've been trying to get that out since that time, but it's now almost 20 years old. In the Beijing document, gender is to be understood as it has traditionally been understood. So at the UN, we've been quite successful because we've always been able to gather enough countries to say no. You don't necessarily need a majority to say no, just enough to block consensus.
Here's uh this was posted by one of the guys that Rich Grinnell was in the pool with. Their gays are
Ah,
our gays. Oh Lord.
oh, I
So
have
it's
to just say
it's
one
it's
thing.
okay if you're
His
a gay dude in a suit, but a gay dude in a dress. Huh.
I'm chuckling at his Twitter handle at Brokeback USA.
Yeah. Uh, Carrie Lake, one of the least likable people on earth. I hope the GOP don't try to put her up for uh, public office again. Well, here she is with.
I doubt it. She's been nominated for some position, I think, at USA at
Oh no.
Voice of America or something.
Here she is with transgender activist Sophia Hutchins, who is also
No kidding.
Caitlyn Jenner's
Oh,
uh, Caitlyn Jenner's a partner. The gay Republican. Look at that the engagement these people get 6.6
yeah,
thousand.
yeah,
Democrats, Democrat gays hate conservative gays because we're confident, intelligent, fashionable, and way hotter than them. Oh Lord.
yeah,
Here's the I want to talk about now say social media influencers. That was kind of politics. So here we got
yeah.
Clavin, who we talked about, Barron, Shapiro, Peterson, and
Peterson.
Jonathan Pajot, who's Orthodox, unfortunately. Um, so Spencer Clavin, hey guys, no homo, but I'm marrying this dude. Jeremy Boring, who's in charge of the Daily
Yeah,
Wire.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I know. I know.
Here's who
Oh
you
gosh,
mentioned,
there's my Douglas
Mur
Murray. Oh my
Murray,
gosh.
Peugeot, and Shapiro. So these guys are all kind of circulating in the same stew, you
Yeah.
know?
I wrote several columns about Douglas Murray. One of them was entitled "Can a Sexual Revolutionary Save the West?" I mean, he wrote this book about the something about mobs, and it was really quite good. But it was so weird. He plopped in the middle of this book um, a couple of pages about how gay men have the mystery, know the answer to the mystery that straight men have wondered about always, and that is what it's like to be penetrated. He actually said that. He didn't say it himself. He quoted somebody else saying that. And it's like, he's good on, you know, Islamic terrorism and taxes and things like that, but he's wrong on a fundamental issue. And how can you welcome him in this way? Now, he's another one who got very upset at the National Conservatism Conference. Yeah, he's kind of a real snide, kind of a serpent guy. And I just don't understand why our side is so accepting of these guys because they happen to be good on a couple of issues.
Yeah,
Quite obviously, they don't care about a proper understanding of human sexuality, but that gives the whole game away.
yeah, I agree. So let me flip back. So here's Jonathan Peugeot, the first step towards saving the West. This was the issue that I had with this kind of method of engagement with these people is that because they've accused me because I say like, why do you have this guy on your podcast? And they go, well, we're more open-minded than you. Here me
Yeah,
being with my past and everything, I said engage with these people, fine, but you got to address the elephant in the room, which is what they have
yeah,
advocated for. And I mean, Clavin, I got a couple of quotes from him. I won't read them. It won't take too long. Um, so, I mean, he essentially says that the Bible has no admonitions against homosexuality at
hmm
all.
yeah,
That it's
yeah,
completely, this stuff comes from the Jesuits because I've heard it coming from James Martin for 10 years.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
that the Paul specifically in his writings, in his epistles, as he's addressing certain issues of pederasty, same-sex slave
hmm
abuse, things like that. But it has nothing to do with homosexuality. This is something
yeah,
Spencer Clavin said about this. So this is where that, experience comes back. Like I never gave up any natural intercourse with women. It was never natural to me to desire women in that way. And as I say, I don't think as I can name or think of no perversion or abuse that twisted me in a way that Paul is describing away from one natural thing toward another natural thing. So it is more I think about these things, the less it describes what's going on with me in my life. So what they're saying is that I have a natural inclination towards same-sex
hmm
attraction, therefore Paul's admonitions don't relate to me. And then to have
yeah.
an interview with this person and to not address it is derelict, as far as I'm concerned. So
I don't know this Jonathan Pago person. I don't know who
but
that is.
you're better off. But a bunch of conservative people have featured Clavin. I mean, you name
Oh
them.
yeah, without a doubt.
The
Yeah,
Daily
yeah, without a
Wire,
doubt.
all of them.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Here's
Oh,
Michael.
this one really bugs me.
A Star is Born, Lady Maga.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
James Lindsay, LGB, or the T and the Q is dragging down the LGB.
yeah. This guy, James Lindsay, has blocked me on Twitter, and I don't even remember why. But man, I'll tell you what, in the fight against gender ideology, he I was just at a private conference a few weeks ago at the Heritage Foundation on this topic, and it's really amazing to see all of these amazing women mostly who have been radicalized on the T issue over the last few years, and he's practically a god to them. They always refer to James said this and James said that.
Oh boy.
But and there are a couple of us in the room who consistently bring up the L, the G, and the B. We're sort of like, stinkers at the garden party. But yeah, I'm, and I'm not impressed with James Lindsay. He's a wicked smart guy. I think he's right on a whole lot of issues, but he's not a friend to the things that we believe in. And he's a troublesome figure, I think.
Well, see, the Gen X people like you and I, we lived through the AIDS era, so they don't. So this to me is ridiculous because like
Yeah,
the lesbian, gays, and bisexuals were doing fine before the trans came along. Gee, where
right.
was this dude in the 80s and 90s? But I got to remember he wasn't even born yet, so he didn't
Yeah,
see
yeah, yeah,
all that. Give me a
yeah,
break. It's just ignorant and dumb. Here he is again with the gays against groomers crowd. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the gays against groomers group is a psyop. It's a gay psyop, like I said, to point over there. Look at the trans people. They're weird.
Right,
Us
right,
gay
right, right.
people, we
They're
want
not
to
like
get
us.
we
Yeah,
want to get married and have kids, and
right.
vote for Trump.
I have not looked in a good long while about whether that is even true. I mean, in the years after Obergefell, the Gallup polling organization showed that there wasn't much real movement toward marriage in the gay
What,
community,
12,
and I
12,
suspect that the
12%
what
of the LGB, 12%.
yeah. It was never about marriage. It was always about normalizing their sexual proclivities.
Yeah. 12%. And I'll guarantee you majority of those are lesbians.
Mm, hmm. That's
Guarantee it.
very interesting.
Because they don't
Yeah.
break it down. They don't break it down. And here's an endorsement of one of Richard Grenell's pool partners. So for some sort of political office, I think it was in Florida. So Benny Johnson, he's another fake conservative. Let's see. Uh, I
Oh
got
boy.
I got in trouble for this, but it's true. The truth is the truth. Pete Buttigieg, his partner, the two kids, Scott, I can't pronounce his last name.
Is it
Bren.
Bassett,
Yeah, he's the Secretary of the
the Treasury
Treasury
Secretary? Yeah.
nominee. He's gay and he
Yeah.
has a human that he bought. So
Yeah. Yeah.
then
Yeah.
not a day went by on conservative Twitter or social media that conservatives did not make fun of Pete Buttigieg with his with the partner, with the bought kids. I haven't heard a peep about this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Me
Hypocrisy.
neither. Me neither.
So the conservatives are okay with all this stuff as long as you vote Republican.
I'm hoping, I wrote a column recently about, and you responded to this, the column about Anita Bryant,
That was
and
awesome.
how things have changed. I wrote a chapter in a book about the corporate media. I wrote a chapter called "All Gay, All the Times and Post," and I looked at how homosexuality has changed, how the legacy media has changed in its attitude toward homosexuality. It was amazing how dismissive and critical Time Magazine, the New York Times, all of them were of homosexuality up into a good chunk of the 60s. And now it's turned completely around. Now Christians are mocked. But in my piece on Anita Bryant, I basically wanted to talk about whether homosexuality could be an object of mirth again. And I talked about some teenagers that you can't say that's so gay anymore. So they came up with that's so 3139. uh, and which are the numbers associated with two of the elements in the periodic table, G, A, and Y. So it's like there's a fundamental understanding among young people that that this thing is wrong. And I guess eventually it can be beaten out of them that they can't think that way. But I think the natural inclination among young people is to understand that this is both comical and tragic.
I agree. This was bad. This was really, really bad. It's official. The National GOP platform has
Yeah,
been stripped of all anti-LGBT language. Inclusion won. Thank you, real Donald
yeah,
Trump. I did go and read the GOP platform for 2024, and I think I went back and read the last platform under George Bush Jr. And it did
yeah,
have mentioning of, the defense of the family, one man, one
yeah,
woman. And yeah, that's all gone.
yeah, yeah.
That's gone.
But I mean, George Bush didn't care to give two hoots about that. Even when the fight was ongoing. So yeah.
But
All these rich and powerful people have their gay friends that they don't want to insult, and they think it's all normal and natural, and it's not a problem.
but don't you think it was just important that it was there? It was there in black and white. At least it was there.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree. Even if they didn't mean it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, then to take it out definitely means
Yeah. I
we're
mean, it
done.
means that at that time there were enough people at that level who insisted that it be there.
Yeah.
And what it shows now is those people have no influence any longer, you know.
So I got this in the mail. This was Republican Party official recommendation. So they have recommendations on all these propositions in California, except three, which was marriage, because they put in the California Constitution same-sex marriage, and the Republican
Hmm.
Party took no position on that.
And when was this?
This was just the last election.
Is that right? So
Yep.
it's never been in the California Constitution. Very
Well,
interesting. I
well,
did not know that.
it is now. So
It is now.
they
Yeah,
they
yeah,
they
yeah,
put it in there. So
yeah,
and look at the GOP in California took no position. Cowards.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Cowards, spineless, worthless.
yeah.
Okay, the argument is amongst conservatives is that okay, well we accept the lesbians and the gays, but we will never accept the transgender stuff. My argument is, well, you already have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right.
Here's Riley Gaines. She's a fake
Yeah.
conservative. Sorry. Here's Blair White on all the conservative talk shows, the Hodge twins, fake conservatives. Blair White is one of the most base chicks we've ever met.
Uh-huh.
That's
Oh,
a
what
guy.
about this
That's a
this
guy for
trans
people that
person?
don't.
What about this trans person, Brianna Wu? You probably follow him
I
on
don't know who that is.
well, he is of course wears woman face, and he's really articulate and right on, very sensible and right on a whole host of issues, but it's a guy. You know what I mean? And he quite smartly does not engage on the trans issue, and is really inserting himself into sort of like this person, mainstream conservatism. Look up Brianna Wu, WU Wu on X.
Oh. This is just from a couple of days ago. Caitlyn Jenner with Sophia Hutchins. Caitlyn Jenner is like 75 something, and
Uh-huh.
Sophia Hutchins is 28. And
Uh-huh.
and here's Pam Bondi,
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, that's
Alina Habba, who's
yeah, the lawyer.
a big counselor, and well, this lady
Yeah.
is nuts, but. here they are. So they've already
Yeah,
accepted transgenderism.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
Overton window, it just keeps shifting. Oh, they weren't
yeah.
going to accept homosexuality. Well, we'll accept homosexuality, but we won't accept gay marriage. Well, they accepted gay marriage,
Well,
but we won't accept.
consider this, that in this coalition that I'm a part of,
Ugh.
with regard to trans children, I don't think that they're right on trans adults. You know, that their whole thing is that this should not be done to children. They should have to wait, so on and so forth. So they do accept it, just not for kids.
It's insane. It's total insanity. They're being disingenuous. And what is EWTN doing here? What are they doing? So
I don't know who this is.
Ollie
Oh,
Lon
that's a detransitioner?
Ollie London, apparently,
Huh.
I don't
I've
think
seen
it's
this person on social media, but I don't really know who it is.
I don't think it's a good idea to be headlining these
Yeah, yeah,
people. I really don't. I,
yeah,
I support these people for their whatever healing process they got to go to. Let them go through
yeah,
it. And then if you want to put them on television, fine. You don't put somebody on television like that, especially
yeah, yeah,
on a Catholic channel.
yeah. I agree.
That's crazy. Oh, this really got me annoyed. So Charlie Kirk comes back. S- So yeah, I wrote a whole article about it. So the
I know.
village people were at Trump's inauguration ball and he got up and danced with them. For somebody
Yeah,
like
yeah.
for somebody like myself, it was really offensive and really sickening. So,
I was at a an '80s birthday party the other night, and this came on, and people were dancing to it. Um, uh, Also a song. Remember that this was played all over in gay clubs back in the day. It's Raining Men.
oh yeah, the Weather Girls,
Do you remember that one?
very
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They played that as
So,
well.
but
Oh my Lord.
at this '80s birthday party, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, my. This is
I'm old enough to remember. I used to go to the Gay Pride Parade in New York City every year, not because I agreed, but because I wanted to be a witness. I wanted to see what this was. And it's like looking at a car wreck. And I haven't been to one in years and years, so I don't know what they're like now, but they were pretty disgusting back in the 80s and 90s.
the same.
Have they cleaned them up? I mean, I know you go to the Folsom Street Fair, which is as disgusting as it gets. Is that the name of it, the Folsom Street Fair?
Yes.
Do you still do that?
I haven't in a few years. I kind of don't have the heart. My heart's not
Yeah,
in
yeah.
it anymore.
Your
I'm
T-shirt,
getting,
God loves gay men,
yeah.
was, and handing out rosaries was just so good.
It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, but I'm getting old and I don't think my spirit can take it anymore. It's a bit much
Yeah, yeah,
to digest. And nothing says conservatism like live and sleazy, you know.
yeah.
This is
Uh-huh,
this
uh-huh.
is the live and sleazy album. Lord have mercy. Here we go. This is at the Trump inaugural ball. It's this dilution of, I went to Berkeley and, I was educated by Marxists and they did have some pretty good ideas, I have to say. One of their theories was that in a capitalist society, fringe cultures tend to get absorbed through this process of consumerism. And these fringe cultures, which are
Oh,
very uh, uh, subversive, get watered down, and then it gets sold to the populace. And
yeah,
that's a means of control. And you kind of saw that, I think, with rap music, where suddenly it was this
yeah,
fringe subversive culture, and then all of a sudden everybody was rapping. White
yeah,
people were rapping, and everything. And you saw this with gay culture. It's gotten diluted and it's gotten accepted, and through that, people have been able to accept gay marriage, uh, gay parenting, adoption, everything.
Hmm.
It's pretty sad. So
Yeah, yeah,
I guess I'm the
yeah.
only one that sees it. I don't know. 1997,
Yeah.
27% of Americans supported gay marriage. Now it's 70. It's more now.
But I still argue that it's a sad day when Junior sits down and tells his dad that he wants to be treated like a woman, as a woman by other men.
Oh God.
No matter how enlightened dad may be, I think it is a sad moment.
I think in most of those situations, yeah, dad is not happy or dad's not there, but the mom is pretty ecstatic.
Yeah.
Do you think gay or lesbian relations are morally acceptable or morally wrong? 71%, 25% think they're morally wrong.
Yeah.
Not good. I think we're winding down here. So here we are, carried with love, the best Christmas gift anyone could ask for. This surrogacy memory came up from 3 years ago when we were only 1 month away from meeting Ari. Now these two daddies have two little boys. Oh God. Their second son was carried by another surrogate. Time flies. So thankful for these pictures and such sweet memories.
One of the good things that I think is happening is a
Oh,
general reaction against surrogacy. Maybe for the wrong reasons, but still, I wonder how accepting people are with regard to, eugenic conception and birth and renting wombs and buying eggs and things like
but
that.
but if the Dave Rubin, that Rorschach test, the fake conservatives were all on board. All the big
Yeah,
mouths with big
yeah,
followings, they were all thrilled. Megyn Kelly, Chris Rufo, they were all thrilled.
yeah,
Not good. And then I kind of wanted to end this with the Catholic Church. You might know this church. This
yeah.
is Saint Xavier in Manhattan.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. And I know this was a part of your real frustration with
Oh,
with the church
you have no idea.
is allowing these types of things to happen with impunity. And I know that you tried to get an audience with any bishop who would listen to you, and I know that the only one was Cardinal Burke. Um, you know, so it's yeah, the frustration is real.
You set that up, and I
Yeah,
appreciate it because I enjoyed meeting him. He's a very kind man. But the impression that I got from him, and this was like the year before he got COVID. So this was like 2018, maybe or 2019, because I know he got really ill. I was praying for him. But when I met him that time, he seemed super overburdened. Like
oh
just,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
I kind of felt like, man, I don't want to talk to this guy because he's got too much going on. And
yeah, yeah. He has had the weight of the world on his shoulders. There's
that's
no doubt about it. Yeah,
that's the impression I got. So I kind of sped read through what I wanted to talk to him about. And the one thing that surprised me about him, and I've talked with bishops, and bishops do give you a poker face, and they always fake that they don't know, because even when there's been abuse and cover-ups in their diocese, they always claim that they didn't know. So I was talking to all of this gay affirmative stuff that's been going on in the Catholic Church. I kind of did a little history with him and stuff that went on in New York with like John J. McNeil and all those crazy Jesuits.
yeah,
And he really wasn't aware of it. He really wasn't. I believed him. So
yeah. That's interesting.
that was a little surprising to me. He didn't
Yeah,
realize it had gone as deep as it had, because
yeah,
I talked about how the crazy people like the Jesuits and Martin, how all that stuff had trickled down into all these parishes and how they were
Mhm.
doing all this gay affirmation. And even before Francis, approved same-sex blessings or whatever he's approving, they've been going on in the Catholic Church for years. And I had always described how back in the 90s, priests would drive around San Francisco and go to people's homes and do same-sex marriages and all this stuff. And it was going on, and people had no idea. And then, like, I don't know what it's like back east, but here in the Bay Area, I've gotten calls from my friends who are Catholics and said, well, I went to Sunday Mass. At the end of Mass, they did a same-sex marriage blessing there at church. And
Mm.
either a girl came out in a tux and the other girl came out in a dress, or two dudes came out in a tux and a
Hmm.
suit. So that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's too bad that society, and I'll end it because you got to go. It's too bad that society and politics have taken this route into same-sex and homosexuality acceptance, but the church has done it too.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. Not everywhere, but in enough places, you know. And as we're ending here, I just want to say, I urge you to keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
A lot of people watch what you're doing, and we're very
Oh,
grateful for it.
oh, thank you.
Um, and I'm sorry that you left the Catholic Church, but I defend you on social media from those people who go after you. So I say, God bless you and yours.
Austin, I got to say you're one of the few because most of the people that I considered friends in the Catholic Church dumped me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So you're a good guy because I've said some harsh things about the church, but
Yeah.
I feel like they're true. I don't feel like I've lied.
You know what? I just let
But
that go because I know it comes from a place of genuine hurt and grievance.
yeah,
So,
you get if you I don't know how it is with the pro-life stuff. I think pro-life people are pretty accepted in the church, but if you try to remain truthful on um, this gender stuff and this marriage stuff, because the Catholic Church has such a history of homosexuality, especially in the priesthood, you get slammed. You really do. And
mhm.
I mean, I did. I got totally slammed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I must run. I'm really grateful for you having me on and showing me all those slides. It was a trip down memory lane. And
Thank
just
you.
know you and I agree.
Thank you. Thank you.